Welcome to another deep dive. Okay, so September 19th. It's a date, right? Just a date. But for Mexico, it's heavy, like really heavy.
Yeah, no doubt about it.
1985, 2017, same date. Two earthquakes that just, I don't know, they shook Mexico to the core,
Absolutely. Devastating.
But today, we're not just revisiting the tragedy, we're diving into what came after. 7 years ago, those 2017 quakes hit, and Mexico launched this massive National Reconstruction Program. We've got this report on it, and let me tell you, the sheer scale of it, mind-blowing.
What's fascinating to me is it's not just about rebuilding what was lost, which is a huge undertaking on its own, but it goes way beyond that.
No kidding. We're talking like over 71,000 reconstruction projects, schools, hospitals, homes, even cultural sites all across 10 states. Over 34 million people impacted.
That's a huge chunk of the population.
And get this, they poured almost 500 billion pesos into this thing. That's something like 28 billion US dollars.
And see, that's where it gets really interesting. The program kicks off with this incredibly moving video montage, almost like a short film, really.
Yeah.
Highlighting the human side of this whole thing.
I was going to say, it wasn't just numbers and graphs right off the bat.
Right.
They showed families picking through rubble, kids in these makeshift classrooms set up outside, even just the exhaustion on the faces of the first responders. Powerful stuff.
And that's what makes it so effective, because it drives home the point that this isn't just an infrastructure project, right? This is about rebuilding lives, rebuilding communities. For example, there's this one moment, it really stayed with me, a woman just overcome with emotion, tears streaming down her face as this truck pulls up. And on the back of the truck, the prefabricated walls of her new home.
Prefabricated walls? Hold on, what is that even, like those giant building blocks kids play with?
Exactly, like life-size Legos. That's the magic of prefabrication. You can speed up the whole construction process, which, after a disaster like this, time is of the essence.
Right. So they're literally bringing hope and a home on the back of a truck. That's incredible.
It is. And then they cut to this school principal, and he's talking about seeing his school reduced to rubble, and you can just hear the uncertainty in his voice, like, will it ever be rebuilt? That what comes next feeling. It's palpable.
It's that feeling of just being completely overwhelmed, Like, where do you even begin to put the pieces back together?
Exactly.
I mean, it's one thing to talk about the impact on people, on families, on communities, but then there's the sheer scale of actually rebuilding. Where do you even start?
It's mind-boggling, isn't it? But they were smart about it. They broke it down into key sectors. So housing, obviously, education, healthcare, even cultural restoration, like a giant infographic almost.
Okay, so break it down for me. Priority number one.
Housing, of course.
Yeah.
I mean, people need a roof over their heads. The report highlights over 62,000 homes that were either rebuilt or repaired. And get this, there was a huge emphasis on supporting women homeowners.
Oh, wow. Really? That's interesting.
Yeah.
Especially given, traditional family structures in many parts of Mexico. It's like they were looking to really empower women in the wake of this disaster.
Absolutely. And it wasn't just about, putting a roof over their heads. It was about creating that sense of community. Remember those kids we saw attending those makeshift classes?
Yeah, how could I forget?
Almost 5,500 schools rebuilt or repaired. I mean, imagine being a kid, right? You've just seen your school crumble.
Yeah.
Attending class under a tree is better than nothing, sure, but can you imagine trying to learn?
No way. It breaks your heart. These kids need a place to learn where they feel safe, where they feel stable.
Absolutely. Then there's the healthcare sector. Over 170 hospitals and clinics rebuilt or repaired. One project that really stood out, the Zaragoza Hospital in Mexico City.
Oh, yeah. Tell me about that.
So this wasn't just a renovation. This was a complete overhaul. The original hospital, severely damaged.
Yeah.
Deemed too unsafe to even enter after the earthquake. But they didn't just tear it down and start over. They brought in these incredible engineers, architects, who specialize in seismic-resistant design.
Okay, so they basically built a hospital that can withstand future earthquakes. That's amazing. Like, we are not letting this happen again.
Exactly. And it wasn't just about practicality either. They incorporated this stunning modern design, reflects the city's culture. It's a testament to the fact that rebuilding isn't just about function, right? It's about creating something beautiful and inspiring for the community.
It's like they took this tragedy as an opportunity, not just to rebuild, but to, improve, innovate. Okay, so we've got homes, schools, hospitals, what else?
Ah, yes. The cultural aspect. We can't forget about that. The report, it dedicates an entire section to this. the meticulous restoration of over 3,000 historic sites.
Right. We were talking about those churches, those monuments.
Exactly. And think about it, these structures, they're more than just bricks and mortar. They represent history, identity, this sense of continuity. Rebuilding them, it wasn't just about preserving the past, it was about giving people hope for the future.
It's that sense of place, that feeling of continuity. It's so important after a disaster. It's like saying we're still here, we're still strong.
Exactly. And here's one of those surprising facts you love. Remember that UNESCO World Heritage Site we mentioned earlier? The Santa Prisca Church in Taxco.
Oh, yeah, that beautiful pink stone church. Stunning.
They didn't just restore it using, modern techniques. They actually revived this ancient technique using a specific type of lime plaster. Imagine that. They even trained a new generation of local craftspeople in this almost forgotten craft.
Wait, hold on, rewind that. They trained a new generation. That's going way beyond rebuilding. That's preserving cultural heritage.
I know. It's remarkable. And speaking of generations, the report highlights how this whole program created over 66,000 jobs.
Whoa.
Yeah,
That's huge. So that's not just rebuilding these structures, it's rebuilding lives, like in a very tangible way.
exactly. It's about empowering communities to rebuild themselves, not just doing it for them. It's about recognizing the dignity of work and the importance of local knowledge.
Such a good point. And it makes me think about the logistics of all of this. I mean, we're talking about a massive, massive undertaking across multiple states, different levels of government, countless moving parts. It couldn't have all been smooth sailing, right?
You're telling me this wasn't some perfectly orchestrated symphony? No way. The report acknowledges that, some of the difficulties they faced. For one thing, this program, it was created essentially from scratch.
From scratch.
Yeah.
Wow.
There was no existing blueprint for something of this magnitude. So there were definitely some growing pains in terms of, coordinating, communicating
Yeah.
between different agencies, different levels of government.
Oh, I bet. Trying to get everyone on the same page after a disaster of this scale, it must have been chaotic.
It was a huge challenge. And then, right in the middle of everything, the COVID-19 pandemic hits.
Oh, wow. Talk about terrible timing. That must have thrown a wrench into everything.
You can say that again. Supply chains disrupted, access to communities restricted. The whole world was in a state of uncertainty, and it's a testament to everyone involved that they were able to adapt and keep this program moving forward, despite these monumental obstacles.
It's like, you hear about those curveballs, like the pandemic on top of everything else, and it makes you realize these people had a level of resilience that's just, I don't know.
It's remarkable. Really is. And, it wasn't just about logistics and blueprints. It was about human will. Pure and simple. That's what shines through in the results.
And speaking of results, you said they pushed through those challenges, but what does success even look like on a project this massive? Like, how do you measure that?
Well, as of this report, 99.7% of those 71,000 projects complete.
Get out of here.
Yeah.
99.7, that's not just checking things off a to-do list. That's like defying the odds after a knockout punch.
And that gets to what makes this program so unique. It wasn't just about rebuilding, it was about rebuilding better. Remember we talked about the Zaragoza Hospital, a seismic design.
Right, building back stronger. Not just getting back to where they were, but surpassing it.
Exactly. And a huge part of that, the emphasis on getting the community involved. Those local committees, that wasn't just for show. They really wanted that local knowledge, those traditional building methods, to make sure this rebuilding was community-driven.
Makes perfect sense. I mean, you can come in with the best plan in the world, but who knows the needs of a community better than the people who live there?
100%. And the report even points out how this approach led to them rediscovering almost forgotten building techniques, like that lime plaster they used in Taxca.
Right. It's like they took this tragedy and found this, I don't know, this silver lining. Not just rebuilding structures, but these traditions, creating jobs, putting the power back in the hands of the people.
And there's this quote from one of the state governors in the report that really got me. He said, "There are things you can count in numbers and things the heart alone can quantify." Just beautiful,
The human element. We can
Yeah.
throw around all the impressive numbers we want, but it's the stories, the resilience, that spirit of the Mexican people. That's what makes this so inspiring.
Couldn't agree more. And that's what I hope people take away from this deep dive, Yeah, it's about a massive rebuilding effort, but on a deeper level, it's about what's possible when people come together.
Yeah.
That enduring spirit of hope, even when faced with total devastation.
It really makes you think, what can we learn from this? Even in our own lives, it's that saying, what doesn't break you?
Makes you stronger.
Yeah. But this program, it goes even further. Remember how they emphasize preventative maintenance? keeping those structures strong, ready for whatever comes next.
Oh, absolutely. Being proactive, not reactive.
That's such a powerful idea. And not just for buildings, right? What if we applied that preventative maintenance mindset to our own lives,
Mm,
our health, relationships, careers?
100%. It's about building that resilience into everything we do so that when those challenges inevitably come our way, and they will, we're ready.
So the real lesson here isn't about bricks and mortar at all. It's about building a solid foundation in all aspects of our lives. That's powerful stuff. This deep dive has been incredible. The heart-wrenching stories, the resilience, and now this idea of building a stronger foundation for ourselves, our communities.
Wow, it really makes you think.
It does. And for anyone listening, if this sparked your curiosity, please go explore more. Look into those building techniques, learn about those communities, or just take a moment to appreciate the strength of the human spirit. And hey, next time you're facing a challenge, no matter how big or small, remember those prefabricated walls arriving on a truck. It's a powerful image, this symbol of hope and the unwavering belief that we can rebuild stronger than before.
Beautifully said.
Thanks for joining me on this deep dive. It's been a privilege exploring this with you.
The pleasure was all mine.